Welcome to Service Six Sigma, a live stream for mobile service professionals. Great news, you're here early. Please stand by as our live stream is about to begin. Thank you. Did you know that Service Six Sigma has 6 sectors? Here they are: attract, convert, deliver, control, scale, and give back. Do you want to be a guest speaker for our show? Please get in touch with Ben Bergloff or Perry Tate on Facebook. We really do hope you enjoy this show. Any feedback is welcome. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Service Six Sigma, a live stream for mobile service professionals. Welcome to Service Six Sigma, a live stream for mobile service professionals. Great news, you're here early. Please stand by as our live stream is about to begin. Thank you. Did you know that Service Six Sigma has 6 sectors? Here they are: attract, convert, deliver, control, scale, and give back. Do you want to be a guest speaker for our show? Please get in touch with Ben Bergloff or Perry Tate on Facebook. We really do hope you enjoy this show. Any feedback is welcome. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Service Six Sigma, a live stream for mobile service professionals.
Benji, you got to turn the music off. I am going to talk over the top of the music. Greetings, everybody. We are here with Ben and Paul, just sorting things out. Yeah, there we go. And so what we're up to is in the life of Paul Finster. It's we're going through this incredible, like, it sucks. There's so many it sucks moments in his life, but his expertise is in the use of vacuum. Oh, great, he's here. Woohoo! Great job. So we'll just get a sound it, Benji. Benji. You there, Paul? You there, Paul? Not yet. Not yet. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. And I'm getting a repeat on me. Ben. Ha. Ha.
I think you have another tab open.
I'm getting a repeat on you too.
Yep.
You keep talking, Paul, until we can hear you. He'll have to go to settings and audio. Yeah. So Paul's 77 and been through the mill from being super successful.
Did you see if you had a tab open, Perry?
Nothing. Say that, Ben.
Do you have a tab open?
No tabs open. Only StreamYard.
Oh, see. I think it is you. Because I have no tabs open for StreamYard.
Do you want me to come out and go back out?
Probably.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, everybody. Or maybe it is me. So I still hear that go.
Here I am.
We hear you.
Great. Now, Paul. He's gone dark. Oh, I've got an echo again. So we better check with anybody on with us. It's even really worse than before. All my other browsers are shut. Oh, no, quit. Safari. Paul. Talk to us, Paul. We can't tell if we can hear you or not, Paul, because I've got a massive echo. What are we going to do, Ben?
I am going to figure that out. What if I mute myself?
Yeah, Peter's getting double, triple.
It must be Paul.
Okay. Knock him out.
Let's try removing him. Is there still an echo?
Yep.
No echo.
No.
It's Paul.
There we go. Paul's in twice, I'll bet.
All right. I bet he is.
Yeah, so we're so excited to have Paul back because it's an amazing life story and it goes through the highs and lows. And some of the things are incredible, like the topic of intellectual property becomes a critical part of his successes and losses. And then the other one is partnerships, and he had one partner who took 70% of his company and to bail him out of the IP problem that he'd racked up so much money in fighting for his IP, and then found out that he couldn't win the case. And I've had that myself, but not to the same level. Like I was about $80,000 down, and then the judge said, I can't make a ruling on this. You guys are better sort it out. Pay your own way and just sort it out. So that was that. Anyway, so we have a lot of conclusions about the legal system and the use of the legal system, certainly from an Australian point of view, together, which we're going to talk about. When we start debriefing his life story, and in addition to that, then he had a partner who came in and bailed him out for 70% of the company, and then he still had he was in a position where the other guy couldn't override him, but then the other guy sold all of his shares to 7 different people, so he had a quorum, which made Paul a minority. Yeah, so as soon as Paul comes in, we get the echo, right? We get the echo, right?
Yep.
What would be causing that? He's gone back to his PC, hasn't he?
Source is collecting. I don't know. I really don't know.
Can't have two unless he's open in two places. But then we would see that, wouldn't we?
Hey Paul, we won't bring you in right this second, but do you have the tab open on your phone possibly? That's collecting the audio. Try again.
Technology. Benji, can you remember where the story's up to?
Huh?
Can you remember where the story's up to? Did you look that up? The last 10 minutes of the last show?
I am looking now.
No, don't do it now. We can't do that. We'll just get Paul. Hopefully Paul remembers up to. I know he hasn't got as far as having to ride to work on a push bike. That's where we're coming to. Yeah. So but Paul's greatest invention is he's got Dragon Pump, and then he's got the Grain Blaster. I can't remember what that was called, but those were the two, and they're both using Venturi principles. And he is a master. There it is. That's crazy. He's a master of understanding the Venturi and understanding the principles of vacuum. So he has also developed for other companies. Hang on, I've got to decline that. So he's mastered for other companies vacuum gutter vacuum system. So we're going to end up in gutter vacuuming, and quite possibly we'll do something with our company in this area. That's what we're kind of talking off screen about, because I never got into the Skyvac. We've got Skyvac compatible poles available, but we never got into the space because I'd already met with Paul so many years ago, and he showed me everything about what vacuuming really is. And I just couldn't bring myself to make a Me Too product with a wet dry vac with 2 motors or 3 motors, just the standard Skyvac system. Now there are the more advanced ones, but what Paul and I have been discussing since then is we're looking at all the gutter vacuuming franchises and noticing that all the franchises, bar one in the UK, all use the technology of the design that he came up with originally. So the super powered vacuum systems. And so the principle of a franchise, when because most of you know that I used to sell franchises, and the principle of a franchise is a successful business system that's able to be replicated. And so the franchisor is responsible to make sure that their franchise system is replicable and profitable. Otherwise, it becomes illegal. And so you can understand why the franchise systems wouldn't be selling the 2 motor, 3 motor wet dry vacs. Yeah. Oh, we've got Paul from Korea is in here. Yeehaw! That's great. Welcome, Paul. Palkabom. So we're looking at we're saying like the technology which Paul developed which became the franchise system type of technology, that is not easily found in the independent market. So that's what we're going to explore and say, well, if the franchise systems can push out highly profitable franchises using this gutter vacuuming technology, then okay, it's more expensive, and that's why a franchise can work, because it's a more expensive system. And okay, we already understand from doing Reach It that maybe 80% of the window cleaner market is not really big on investing. If you compare it to the other industries in mobile contracting, like window cleaning is the bucket bob logic, and when we approached resellers to carry Reach It in the US, pretty much much they go, no, we don't want to have that level of education for the change of technique. We don't want nobody's going to pay that sort of money for a brush, $350 US or $500 Australian or something like that. So we've already gone through that process of educating the value of a high quality product. Hello, Ben. Oh,
Okay, I think
maybe
we
we're
got it
here.
working.
We're here.
Right. Look at that.
got it working.
Oh my God, Father. I'll tell you what, it's hard being an old tech head.
Yes. There you
You
go.
know, every other time it's worked, and for this time I couldn't get a connection. But anyway, we're here.
We're here.
Hi, Perry.
And
Hi,
hello,
Perry.
mate. Good to see you again, my
And
old
so
friend.
good to see you too. Yeah, great. What a
Now,
week.
so I was just giving a little bit of blah blah blah, but did you have a good week? How did it go? You go.
I had a challenging week. We've got I've opened up 3 distributors in 1 week.
Wow.
One of them being New Zealand, 2 in Australia, and I just this morning got an email in from South Africa. That was 3 days of searching the web to find the right sort of company, and
Yes.
I went after them, and of course it ended up
Yep.
in junk mail. So typically on their website they had, if you've got questions or you want to contact us, here's a little box that you fill in, and then you perform I'm not a robot, and I did that. Bang, I got a reaction from a girl in the office.
Fantastic.
Who then referred me to the MD, and then the MD come on the email just this morning. I went, yes.
Fantastic. You see, here we go again.
Both New Zealand and South Africa are both companies, and I've done a lot of work in those countries, so I'm excited to get them on board. And the next target is the UK. So
great.
Yeah, and of course I know the UK market very well. So
you know it very well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very well. Yeah, very well. So we're talking machinery between $5,000 and $50,000 per item.
Oh, nice.
Going into these locations, and we're about to put our hand up for the Australian government export grant, which will help us along as well. So, yeah, we're going to be, if it all pans out, my foundation stone of the business model should become within 2 years the largest supplier of industrial vacuum equipment in the abrasive blasting industry in Australia, bar none. We hold 80% of the market right now through distribution, and we've got distributor offices dotted all over Australia. One company has got 30 odd people in the field, so you can imagine the penetration they're getting. And that's exciting for me. It's something that hopefully, if it all goes well, it'll be something that I've done well in my life. But as yet, the ink is not on the paper between myself and the JV partner. So we'll see.
You got to do that tight. Yes,
we're going to do that.
Do that before you give it all away, right?
Yeah, and there's
otherwise you walk down the same road again.
Yeah, well, there's 3 segments. He's got segment 1. The other 2 are very, very technical and very involved and life experience. So with me, that corridor will become extremely easy for him. Without me, he will struggle. He won't get beyond where he is right now. And I've purposely held that bit of it, back, as you do.
Well, you've got the life experience to prove that you run the risk of being shafted. And
what
I've always taught Harrison, that you never give credit. Giving credit to somebody is like lending a friend some money. You only give credit if you're prepared to never see it come back. Because that money becomes a lifetime loan to that person.
Yep.
And the other one, never put yourself in a position where it's worth it financially to the other person to shaft you.
Yeah.
So you're holding back. Once you've given it all over, you've just made it worth it for him to. And then he's up against. If you think about, even if we just talk about Adam and Eve and the knowledge, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, I always say, well, you know, that's what we live with. I raise all my children with this basic principle, is that every human from birth has this innate ability to see how to use a situation or a knowledge for bad or for good. And we have to, the challenge of our character is, you know, success and failure are both imposters, right? They really challenge who we are as a creature, as a human, as a spirit, as a soul, as a person. And so at these moments where the person feels they've got, you know, 90% of the power over 10%, because they, in your case, in this case, they'll have your knowledge, you know. then the I don't need you principle, and that comes down to who are you and who is he, and you never know who the other person is until that moment. Are they gonna
100%?
Are they gonna screw you, or are they not? And they have to have super solid and well tested ethics and morality and principles, and, you know, to not use the legal system to destroy you, you know, to not use semantics to destroy, to eliminate you, so they get all the money, isn't it?
Yeah, look, you know, I had an engineering company that was doing all of my CNC manufacturing in rural New South Wales, and you know, he said, Paul, why don't you let us do all the, you know, manufacturing and packaging, and you just go out on the road and sell it, and we'll send it wherever you want. 9 months later, he turned around and was doing the whole thing himself. And you know, I trusted him, and it was an incredibly big company. But you know, there's one thing which is in your industry as well as mine. You and I are on a parallel road, although we're in different industries. We are on a parallel road as inventive people and marketing and sales and all the rest of it. And the truth of the matter is, I'm reminded of my second wife, who said to me very clearly, the only reason that people copy you is because you make it seem very, very simple. And it's not. Because I've watched you over the years, and it's far more complicated than what people think. The problem is that when you build the product, the simplicity of the other guy looking at this product going, well, all I've got to do is reverse engineer it, and I'm in the marketplace. And I think I can do better, you know. And this guy in New South Wales thought he could do better, but he wasn't inside my head. And you and I have talked about that before. And he can't get the numbers into the market because I'm watching him with the eye of an eagle, and the numbers are not there. So sooner or later, as other people before him, he will fall over. And then it's a matter of, the numbers have come from production runs of 100 down to 10. It's not now worth building it, and we'll just move back into our, you know, our core product. And so sometimes when you're in the market, it pays to actually withdraw from the market and leave them standing with the fact they can't ride on your back. So you literally go underground, which is, you know, the problem with the web, because everybody wants the web. If you shut down a website and then you go underground, you can still do the business and not really be up there where the other guy can see what you're doing.
Yeah, the gorilla. I mean, that's like the Nestle 43 beans thing. You know, they never say, or the Coca-Cola recipe is never patented, because otherwise the people can see what it is and copy it, you know.
Precisely.
So, and that comes back to that intellectual property thing. Like that whole conversation about intellectual property is that, you know, sometimes you declare your secrets in order to protect your secrets, and then you can't. You know, the system doesn't work in your favor. It's not what it seems, is it?
That's right.
You know,
and that's because in some cases lawyers are bloody crooked, and they find a way to get their clients around the problem. You know.
Well, that's the essence. Why? You know, what is a lawyer? A lawyer is somebody who can turn the truth into a lie and a lie into the truth. That's their job.
Yeah, I disputed an account from a lawyer not too long ago, and it was a sizable amount, and I end up flying in to meet them, and I said, look, you know, you cannot justify this bill. There is no hours booked. There's no nothing. You've just given me an invoice. There's no references whatsoever. And she said, oh, it was work that we did 2 years ago, and my minions in the office lost it, and it surfaced again, and then we present it to you. And I went, no, I'm sorry, that ain't going to work. Now, this is $650 an hour. Right?
Wow.
$650 an hour. Yeah. So in the end, I said, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to pay it, because, and we're going to end up in a dispute, and you're going to lose the client. So you've either got to decide whether you want to move forward with this and maintain the relationship, or it's just not going to go anywhere. She said, well, I guess if it comes down to that, I'll release you from the bill, because I can pick the money up by adding $1,000 to each of my other clients and run it through. Now, I won't say where
how lacking in ethics is that?
Specializes in a particular segment of industry, but she does. And that industry has a lot of vanity, and she can plug $1,000 or $2,000 onto an invoice, and they wouldn't even know it was coming.
Nobody would know.
So that really showed me the character of the person who I trusted, who I had very personal conversations with, but there it is. So, you know, it's a matter of, you as I have in our last segment, I explained to you, you know, Queen's Counsel and the barristers and the solicitors and all the rest of it. And we get down to the punchline, and I go, so where's my damages? Oh, another 70 grand to get your damages. Well, why didn't you take that into consideration when we're at the negotiating table? You could have turned around in my interests and locked that down when we had them bent over the couch, and you failed me. They still put their hand out for the bill, you know. They still put their hand out for the bill.
I'll tell you my one. My one, I had a television marketing company, right? And my sales manager, her husband got out of jail. True story. Got out of jail and decided to back her, right, to start her competition to my Perry Tate's Computers business. And so she moved in 2 floors below me in the same building, and then copied my ad structure, my TV ad structure, had a similar sounding phone number, which they found, right? And then passed off as if they were us, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And then so we went to court to stop them from passing off, you know? And and I said that, like, I had the experience from television marketing, so, you know, what she's done is stolen from me the knowledge,
the technique.
She said, I have telemarketing experience, right? She'd run call centers, right?
Right.
So she no television marketing. So and I've got you know my lawyer versus her lawyer and all that sort of thing, and the judge goes, so we're saying she's got no experience. She's just completely just ripped the whole business, right? And copied it. And she's going, I've got telemarketing experience. And the judge couldn't discern, and neither could my lawyer, that telemarketing is not television marketing. It's telephone marketing. Right. And that case got dropped, where he said, just each go your own way and pay your own, you know, we were $80,000 in, you know, and all on the basis of the judge believing that a telemarketer was a television marketer and not discerning that it's a telephone marketer, you know, like, and you go, how wrong is this?
And that's, and that's been my experience too, because you talk to these legal eagles, and in the commercial world, they have no understanding of it, no understanding whatsoever. And
they don't care. There's nothing in it for you to win unless they're pro bono, right? So then you go. So I've self-represented ever since. You know, I've used a lawyer to help me get my affidavits together and clean it up and make sure it's in the right language and the right tone, and, you know, all that kind of thing. But I just don't trust them. They don't give a rat's ass about whether I win or lose. You know.
No, all they care about is the hourly fee.
The hourly fee.
And it's rather interesting, because I had a similar experience in my blowback history where I had an accountant, a female accountant, in a you know, a high-rise building, very palatial type of office, and
Yeah,
I
as they do.
built a
Look at me.
personality with her, and you know, family and all that sort of stuff. We used to
Yeah.
talk about those things, and this was heading towards when I sought the joint venture partner with my blowback business. Anyway, as it turned out, I used to go in there, and the receptionist was, "Oh, sit down, Mr. Finster. You know, she'll be with you for in a moment." You know, no one ever walked out of her office, so I knew there was no previous client in her office, but it was always a period
The
of
power
time.
play. Yeah.
Right. So I used to sit there, read a magazine, whatever. These days I worked in a suit, as you may have, and
Yep, I did.
and then all of a sudden the phone rang, and, "Oh, you can go in now, Mr. Finster." So I'd walk in and sit down, and we'd have a, you know, opening polite, "Hello, how are you?" and all the rest. "And how's your family, Paul? And what's going on here and what's going on there?" You know, and it was a social conversation. And I didn't pick up on it. I just thought, "Oh, this person is lovely," and you know, we're having a chat.
Yeah.
And then we'd talk about the company and the business and whatever is we had to talk about. And then we'd be over and done with, and I would leave and shake her hand, and everything was wonderful. Until at one point I got a bill, and it was 40K. And it turned out that the girl on the reception was the bookkeeper. In other words, she had a diary there that the moment I walked into reception and sat down, that's when the clock started ticking.
Wow.
So while I might have spent 15 minutes in reception waiting for an appointed time, I would then go in, the social conversation would flow, right?
That's another 200 or
and
400.
Then I'd leave. Ka-jing, ka-jing, ka-jing. When my JV partner took over, he was an accountant in his own right, although he was Singaporean based. And he challenged her bill. Ended up in the magistrate's court. She lost the whole 40 grand.
Wow.
Much to my embarrassment, because I saw her as a friend, but she lost the 40 grand. And after the court, he took her aside and he said, "You will never do that to another client, and I've given you a very strong lesson." And I mean, you know, this guy's a little Chinese Singaporean. You look down on him from my height, but a tough dude, a real tough dude.
Yeah,
and she learned it real quick. She went out of that partnership backwards. Backwards. Yeah.
I'm going to quote for you. Do you know Rudyard Kipling?
I know of him. I don't read a lot of his work. He wrote the most amazing poem called If, which is what I run by, and I've raised Harrison with If, and I'm raising Ollie with If. You know, it's the definition of what is a man from a father writing to his son. However, Rudyard Kipling's own life, he was a shipbuilder, and he was can I remember from when ships went from wooden to steel? He was the inventor of aspects of steel ships. I can't remember if it's the rudder system that they put onto the steel ships or the steel ships, but he was a shipbuilder, and he had a ship called the Mary Gloucester. The Mary Gloucester was named after his wife, and there's a poem called the Mary Gloucester. But I'm going to quote you, which you're going to love. I'm going to quote you a very small part. It's Gloster. It's not Gloucester like the city Gloucester. The Mary. It might. I think it's the Mary Gloucester is the poem. It's very long, and it's very detailed. But if you understand, he was a shipbuilder, not a poet. You know. But he wrote this: "They copied all they could copy, but they couldn't copy my mind, and I left them sweating and stealing, a year and a half behind." You know, I saw that on your Facebook page. I took one look at it. I went, if ever a man hit a nail on the head, 100%, that's it. And yes, I remember that quotation off your Facebook page. And it's brilliant. And
you'd love the whole poem. And now you know the history, because his son was his son was like a trust fund baby. Like he did nothing, right? And he was going to inherit all this money. And his mum died, I think. Or the mum got sick, so they took the mum out on the Mary Gloucester to bury her at sea from the Mary Gloucester, something like that. That's what the poem is about. But the history is, when you look at him, maybe he invented the first steel rudder or something like that. For a steel ship, something like that.
Yeah,
it's really good read. It's very inspiring.
I saw another quotation: "When you build in silence, no one knows how to oppose you." And that's another little
yes. Well, that's I suppose that's one of the great lessons from our conversations is what you do behind the scenes and not tell all your stories and don't disclose all the stuff you're talking about.
There's stuff that you will never hear on this. We might talk about it privately, but you won't hear it. In a recording situation. Talking about people, one of the things, and I just made a note to remind myself. One of the things that happened to me after the cessation of my blowback company, because now I'm out in the woods for 5 years, can't compete. It's like, what the hell do I do?
Yes, that's where we got to.
When you've been doing it, that's where we got to. And when you've been doing that for 25 plus years, you sit there. It's just like if I pulled away your business 100%, and you've already been there from what I know about you, it's like, and you can't go back into it. It's like, what the hell do you do? And you either go back to what you did before you had the company. So that's what you did between, maybe age 19 or 20 and 25 or 30 even. And you do that, or you try and find something 100% left field and you go there. So here I am. My company has been packed up into furniture removal trucks and moved to Brisbane. My staff have totally gone. I now lose my position on the board of directors, and it's like, oh my God, Father, I've got to put food on the table and do the things that men are supposed to do. And this is an awesome weight that as men we carry on our shoulders, relevant to our partners and our children. And this is my formula about people that get on your bus and get off the bus, and some people are there for the journey, because sometimes, and in my case, in both cases, both of my wives lost that ability to sit on the bus and know that my knowledge and experience would rejuvenate the family income. So they bailed out, and that is soul destroying in its own right. Nevertheless, so here I am, and I'm going, I got to pick myself up, dust myself off, get my head in the right space and work. And of course, now we're entering into the area of computers, and I'm still on a learning curve in that area, and electronic communications. So what do? I don't have Wi-Fi, I can't afford it. I go to the local library and I start tapping into the library Wi-Fi system. And of course, you've got to get there. In that process, leading up to that, we had 2 cars in the family. We sold one to finance, and eventually I come home from work one day and my wife had sold the second car. So I ended up on a push bike at age 52 years of age, just going, yep, I got to do this. The library was in cycling distance, so I could go there with my computer over my shoulder and start, doing what I needed to do. In that area of a library, and you have these blank spots when you're behind a computer and you go, what am I doing? Where am I going here? What am I trying to achieve? I tapped into the library books. And one of the things that helped me out tremendously was that library. I found the series by Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill started writing during the Great Depression. If you can find his books, for people that are out there that find themselves in this situation of how do I remotivate myself, the Napoleon Hill series is terrific. This is a guy,
are you kidding me?
That traveled with the backside out of his pants, that rode the rail system in the United States, that lived in New York when they were jumping out of the windows in the stock market, and he survived. And fabulous book. I later on found another author in Australia called Fletcher Jones, and Fletcher Jones in the Great Depression was well known as a clothing specialist in suits and dresses,
Yes.
and travelled across Western Victoria with circus tents and repairing farmers' suits and wives' dresses that couldn't sew or couldn't change. It's a very, very small book. It's almost unobtainable nowadays, but I actually drove to Warrnambool and
What's the name of the book?
searched.
Can you remember?
No, I can't remember it straight off, but I'll send you an email with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
details on it.
yeah.
It's very short reading, but the emphasis
My kind of
which
book.
which I heard you talk about the other day when you said, "Oh, I was living in Sydney and I'd go out in the country for a few days, dodge all the kangaroos, do a bit of business, come back in again, wait for a period of time and go back out again." I call that cloverleaf selling. You know, you do a different area
Yes.
on each run.
Yes.
I've done that.
Exactly that.
I've also done that for a good part of my life. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I like to see people's eyes and faces and feel their business model, like what's their shop look like or their warehouse look like, and who's the guy down the back that's packing the orders, you know, and does he know about what it is that I'm bringing to the table? I'm a very, very hands-on that way, sometimes to my detriment, other times to my absolute advantage, you know,
like anything.
but that's where it is. So I'm going to pick up, if you don't mind, on so now I'm doing this library thing.
Let's go.
I'm out there going, and by the way, I borrowed the bike from my daughter. So she had it in the backyard and said, "Oh yeah, Dad, you can have the bike." And I went, "Great." Later on, I managed to cycle to her workplace, and she was office bound, and I'd borrow her car for the day and then bring it back and then climb on the bike and ride back home. So what I found was a great garden centre, also very close to now my new abode, which was a tiny residence. So I'm there with my wife and now a young growing son, and struggling. Wife was selling off furniture, all sorts of things to keep us going, and of course I mentioned about the cars. So I had an old network, and I tapped into that network, and I started doing, because I've got a background in the paint industry, I started doing automotive paint and spray guns, and I found I could, I didn't want to outlay too much money, so I went around knocking on doors and saying, "Hey, I can fix your spray gun," and some of these guns are worth $600 to $1,000. Amazing enough, the guys that use them don't know how to repair them. And so all of a sudden they go, "Oh yeah, Paul, here's my gun, take it home. Can I have it back tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock? I've got a car coming in." And so I used to take this thing home, and I'd be up to my hands and elbows in solvent, scrubbing guns at age 52, going, "This, like, what am I doing here?" Turned out that one guy said, "I've just had a bloke in. He's been asking me a whole lot of questions. I can't give him the answers. I think you can. Here's his phone number. Can you give him a call?" I went, "Sure." So I rang the guy and I said, "Look, I've been recommended by Charlie Brown to give you a call. You've got a problem with a compressed air thing or whatever." And he said, "Yeah, can we catch up?" And I said, "Yep, look, you'll find me at this particular garden centre in the coffee shop." And here I am, I'm in there now. So I've migrated from the library to the coffee shop. I can afford a coffee. And on some occasions I got a few free ones because I was a nice bloke and I was nice to everybody in the coffee shop, and they'd slip me a freebie. The bike was parked out in the front porch, but it was still me. Anyway, as it turned out, this guy meets me and he's a nice enough bloke, and he goes, "So here's my problem." And I said, "Yeah, what is it?" He said, "I'm trying to come up with a sandblasting system that will blast abrasive through a stencil and mark glass." And I went, "Why would you want to do that?" And he said, "Well, cars are being stolen, in particular in the UK, and if they mark the glass, so the side windows, the windscreen, the rear window, with a mark, then the car won't get stolen because the windscreen's glass, a valuable part of a car,
unsaleable,
unsaleable in the wrecking yards or whatever." So I said, "Yeah, look, what have you got?" So he showed me some prototype work, and I went, "Yeah, I can see where you've done it wrong. let me play with this and I'll see what I can do. End result was he gave it to me, and I refined it. And I run around to a few people, little subcontracting engineering companies, and get, I want this, and this is the way I want it. Yeah, Paul, we know you because of what I'd done with these guys previously.
Yeah.
So it was mates helping mates, in some cases free of charge, in other cases, there was a cost relevant. Rang the guy, said, it's all finished, come over and have a look. So, and I completed a stencil for him. Now, the stencil at the time was cut by a very sophisticated laser cutting machine used in the watch industry in Switzerland, and it's called a YAG, Y-A-G. And he had found a guy in northern New South Wales that had one of these machines. He was doing surgical equipment. The factory in Switzerland connected my client, and all of a sudden we've got the stencils worked out. So he said, Paul, you've done a great job. I've got a lot of respect for you. What are you doing career-wise at the moment? I went, bloody nothing. I'm stumbling around, earning a bob here and there. And he
cleaning,
said,
spray painting guns.
Yeah, well, I didn't tell him that, but nevertheless. And he said, I would like to use you as a consultant. And I went, yeah, sure. What do you want me to consult on? He said, well, I'm much older than you. There's people that your knowledge and skill would overcome any obstacle. If I find them, can you do the sales pitch? I went, sure, no problems at all. This is my product. I believe in it, although it was still, in my mind, a little bit ad hoc, and he said, great. Okay. So lo and behold, he starts making connections. This guy works the phone like you wouldn't believe. A fellow Kiwi, by the way. And lo and behold, he found a company in Melbourne that went, yeah, I want that, because they had a security alarm system, and they figured they could turn around and go into a house and start branding certain objects in the house with a stencil.
High value objects.
And then, they couldn't be stolen, or they could be traceable. So they're like, wow, we can do that. So I basically didn't want to afford the airfare to Melbourne. I talked this guy into coming up into the Gold Coast where we were living to meet with my client and myself. And we met in a restaurant in Surfers Paradise. And this guy is like gung-ho. He's in his suit. He's Victorian. He's switched on. And he's looked at the product. He wants it, and he wants it as an exclusive. And my client says, jackpot. He had a draft agreement already figured out. And he said to the guy, could you excuse me for about 15 minutes? I'm going to get an agreement put together, and then we can sign it up today. And the guy went, yeah, great. I want to go back home with an agreed exclusive Australian distribution agreement. My client already had it in his briefcase. He walked away from the meeting purposely to allow me to rev the product up to another level. Then he come back, opened up the briefcase and went, here it is, you want to sign? The guy couldn't pull the pen out of his pocket quick enough and went, bingo. We're talking product worth about $3,500 an item. Not big money, but the numbers were there, right? First order, 50 items. I'm going, because I got commission off the back end of this. So we take the order. I run around to all my mates and say, I want you to build this bit, you build that bit, and da-da-da-da. And by the way, the money's coming from my client. So I'm not even touching the invoices. This is a at cost deal. And I'm just in it for the commission. So we get it going. The order goes in, and the invoice is paid, and everybody's grinning. And the bloke in Melbourne says, hey, Paul, can you come down and help me? I went, yeah, sure. But, you're going to have to wear the airfare and the accommodation. No problems at all. Come on down. I'll pick you up from the airport. Da-dum, 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 and away we go. And he walks me into his office area, and he's got a team of people on the phone selling this electronic security system to all and merry. A lot of Indian people in this office, by the way. No prejudice there. It's just those sort of people doing telemarketing, right?
Yep.
Observation. So, of course, then It's like, I want you to educate everybody on how this all works, take them through the whole thing. I'll take
Wow.
5 people off the phones, and you can take that group and then send them back to the phones and take the next 5. So 20 odd people we trained up, and they're running. They're really running. And so what they had is they had installers running around doing all the electronics of an installation inside the house with an automatic phone back. So if the owners of the house left the house, the moment they locked the door and flicked the switch, their whole house was under the control of the telemarketing team. So you enter that house and the alarms are going off, and they're going, "Hey, get back to your house," and we're calling the police because someone's broken in.
they built a proper security call center, but it was I can't remember what they're called now, because I used to work for Signature. I was I was sales manager for Signature Security for one.
I think it was AJP or ADP or something like that.
Right.
But turn off the power to the fuse at the fuse box, and the house is like gone.
Oh, goodness me.
That was another story. Anyway, lo and behold, my client is now really impressed because we're down to a second or a third order, and the thing is just chugging out the door. And he's on the phone of a night time to the UK. And he finds a company over there that has just started up this business in a similar light, and they want to do, in-house security for industry, but also domestic. And in Wales, theft at that time was really, really rife. We're talking year 2001, 2000.
Okay, so after the 1997 crash, the washout from the 1997 crash,
Yeah. So lo and behold, he gets a company that says, "I want this thing." He sent one unit already over there. They've looked at it, they've tried it, and he had the basic stencil. Of course, the money was in the stencils. That's where the real consumption of money is, and I'm going to show you a stencil in a minute. So lo and behold, what happens? Paul, how do you feel about flying to the UK? You'll be over there for 3 weeks, and you're going to meet these guys, and we want you to do the sales pitch. And I went, "Well, great, but who's paying for it?" "Oh, I'm paying your airfare, and I'm paying your accommodation, but I want you to fly over there and do the deal. And I'll send a second unit over so you've got your own unit that you can do demos wherever you want to." And I went, "Great." So it's all lined up. The Poms are excited to see me. They pick me up from Heathrow, and they take me out into the sticks, and and I'm in a B&B type of environment. Because the sales manager
for those now Airbnb came from B&B. B&B stands for bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast. So it's a village with no hotel in it. So this was the only place that I could stay, because it was close to the national sales manager, who was also a director in the big Mercedes-Benz, and upper class. He's really making it happen. 2 days go by, and the chairman of the board comes into the village for a one-day visit to meet me, and says, "Paul, I'm really impressed, but this location is not good for me. I want to move you up to where I live, which is near Bristol." So I said, "Yeah, fine." He said, "Okay, well, pack up your bags, and the next 2 weeks you're going to be up in this location." And it's a similar type of arrangement. You'll actually be on a rural location, but a separate house to the main house. And we're going to organise a car for you. We'll organise your fuel, and we're going to give you a debit card. You can do what you need to do. And then we're going to go together. We'll be on the train to London, and we're going to meet people and all the rest of it. But I am selling my whole business model to get investors into the company, right? Shareholders. So they put me in the car, and they drive me up to Bristol, and I go onto this farm. I'll never forget it. And here I am. And sure enough, we start working together. He buys me a computer. So I never took my own computer over there. He buys me the computer and said, the days that you're not on the road with me, I want you to, work this whole thing up. I want operating instructions, or how to do it, the whole lot. And by the way, we're doing a trade show at one of the biggest supermarkets in Wales, and we've invited the local police in. The TV cameras will be there. You're going to show everybody how this thing works. And I'm going, I don't know about that. But anyway, so I end up doing a Punch and Judy show in this car park with the TV cameras going and the police there and people signing up. We were actually doing their cars in the car park. There were four machines eventually. We had 4 operators trained. And this was the start of the rollout. Now, they had cars that had sign writing all over them and vans, and it was a well-oiled bloody machine. So what happens? We now start to deliver a product out of Australia, but my client is now saying, I need to run around to all your guys to get the production done, right?
Yep.
I need to know who they are and where they are.
Where's my product coming from?
Yeah, can you send me a list of phone numbers and names and locations? So I said, yeah, okay. Because I'm easygoing at this stage, right?
Yeah.
But the clock is ticking away for me to come back into Australia.
Yes.
And lo and behold, I'm on the last week and I've now moved back down into London. No, sorry, I was still in Bristol. I beg your pardon. I was still in Bristol. And my client in Brisbane or the Gold Coast rings me and he said, Paul, have you got a car? And I said, yeah, I have. And he said, I want you to drive to London. I'm going to get you to meet with a company. And I went, okay, how does this fit into the role that I'm playing at the moment? He said, oh, no, I'm opening up a second distribution network. I need you to put the machine in the back of your car, go down there and demonstrate to these guys. And I went, right, okay. I don't know whether I'm comfortable with that because I've formed relationships now, but okay, all right, well, let's see where this goes. So what happens? Pack up early hours of the morning because it's a big drive to London. Drive into London, find the location, duly arrive. And the guy says to me, g'day, how are you? Turns out he's an Aussie.
You did say g'day, how are you?
Yeah, well, and anyway, so I meet the crew, 3 guys, a fairly large business. And he said, we're into putting laminate on car windows so they can't be broken into. So where you would normally put a tint on a window and it's a certain film thickness, if you hit that with a hammer, you'll go through the glass and the film. What he did is he had a special film made up that reinforced the glass to the point where it not only tinted it, but no matter what you did, even with a sledgehammer, you would never go through the glass. And he had a franchise across the UK, in Scotland and in Wales, where he had people like an O'Brien glass that you would know in Australia, where they are fitting the tint to the car. The cars were top of the range, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, Marbecs, you name it. He had the upper crust. He was doing all the security cars for the royal family, making squillions. Head office in Acton in London. And he said, one of the things we want to do is we want to put this brand on all the car with our logo. And I went, right. I don't know how that's going to work out, but, sure. So anyway, he said, so while you're here, can we use the machine? Can we set it up and start playing with it? Now, the machine itself, in my opinion, right from day one, was still antiquated because I was building it within the guidelines that my client had set me up. Don't change anything, Paul. I just wanted to, do that.
Just wanted to work. Yeah.
Okay. So an Australian, what am I going to call it? 10-cent piece, thereabouts. I'm looking for my disc that's somewhere here in front of me. The wording on the disc was the same as a coin, where the letters go around the top half, and around the bottom half, and then in the middle, in a coin, you've got a symbol or something, a figure. In this particular case, you would put a code in, and that code could be changed. So you would have the name of the company and the location, and then you would have an
And then the code.
numeric code in there that's relevant to the car. In this particular case, it could be the VIN number of the car. You with me?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
it
yes,
could be
yes.
the
Yep.
last 6 numbers of the VIN number of the
Of
car.
the VIN number,
But whatever
yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
it directly related. So a police vehicle could go, oh, the plates have been changed on this car. It doesn't match the numbers that are on the screen or on the window. Yeah. So
Right.
don't know what happens if you change the registration on the car in the UK. But anyway, that wasn't my problem. So
Yep.
of course, we work with these guys for the day. We're doing windows that are not mounted in the car. They're on a bench, you know. So we're doing it
Yep.
downwards. We're doing it vertically. We're doing all the rest of it. And what happens is they said to me, Paul, sorry, I'm looking down for my very valuable stencil. Excuse my face for a minute, but I'll pick up in a tick. It's leaving a residue on the glass, and we're not quite comfortable with that. But nevertheless, we can see that it's going to work. We'll talk to the guy in Australia, and we'll do the deal from there. So what happens is they did the deal, and he sold them initially 20 units to come into the country.
Yeah.
So they send him the money, he gets paid, he builds the product, he packs it all up, and he sends it. Unbeknownst to me, he tries to cheat the system by finding other guys to build certain parts of the componentry system.
Right.
So
the
bloody things arrive, and of course I'm now back up in Bristol. They're in London. They're quick to unpack it. Let's fire this thing up before we send it out to all the branches, and use it. And guess what? It failed.
Didn't work.
It failed. It failed big time, because in amongst it was my technology of Venturi design. And if you don't do the bore and the angles right, like the neck of a bottle, the bloody thing will not do what it's supposed to do. And what's happening is the Venturis are not working correctly to pull the abrasive back into the reservoir hopper to then send it back to the gun to do the blasting process. End result is London rings me and says, get your ass down here. It's up the creek. So I've never seen the stock. I arrive and take one look at it and go, well, there's a decisive difference between the original unit and what you've received. And this is embarrassing for me. So what happens is they turn around and say, Paul, you know, we can't live with this. You're going to have to turn around and do something about it. Now, by this time, they brought in an executive from the glass industry. He worked for the government. He oversaw all of the glass industry in the UK and also certain European countries. So he arrived, very, very nice guy, very polite, very English. And he sat down in the boardroom one-on-one with me and said, Paul, I see a market for this that's outside what these guys are doing. Would you be interested in talking to me about that industry? And I said, sure. And he said, okay, I'll give you some background. There's a law that's about to hit the UK where every type of glass has to be engraved with the glazier's trademark. So in other words, glass coming out of Pilkington is called a motherboard. Huge, huge sheet of glass. It's how we sell it to the little glaziers all over the country. And then what they do is if they want a particular size window pane, they cut it off the motherboard and then they take that cutaway and they install it. So where you've got a doorway that's got multiple little panes of glass in it, they may want to, you know, repair or replace a pane. However, when it comes to a shopping centre where there is a glass door to enter the shopping centre or a glass door on a retail store, and for some reason someone's walked into it and broken the glass and injured themselves, when it gets to court, it becomes a huge question mark of, is the correct safety glass there? And if so, who in the hell installed it? Because the onus goes back to the glazier to install the glass. And there was no traceability back to the tradesman to go, yeah, I'm the guy that installed that. And I got it from a motherboard from Pilkington. All the motherboards were all branded. They all had a code on them. And they wanted that code transferred to every section of glass that was cut off the motherboard. So you can imagine in a court of law, the judge can just throw it out the door and go, yeah, sorry, you've cut your arm up and your arm, and or you cut your waist or whatever, your eye, and there's no credibility with this. Go and do whatever you got to do, but it's not going to pass my law court. So, and at the time, laser engraving wasn't really in the UK market. So this guy says to me, every pane of glass, whether it's on a wardrobe, whether it's a mirror in a bathroom, whether it's a mirror in a hallway, dating back to 1900, retrospectively has to be engraved. And that law is still there right now. And I haven't followed it up for some obvious reasons. And that is that, and as the story comes out, you can start to, you'll understand why I haven't. So what happens? Here I am in this room with this executive who's going, Paul, what you've got is not working. You seem to be inventive enough. Can you come up with something? And I went, yeah, I believe I can. I'm just turning on my flashlight on my to see if I can see with this bloody stencil arrived while my earphone falls out. Oh my God, Father, I can't believe that I've misplaced this. The bloody thing is so critical and yet valuable. But anyway, I think from my description, you've got an idea of what it looks like, right? From the coin.
How thin is it?
Okay. Oh, paper thin. Paper thin.
Right.
So, it has a life, but it doesn't have what you call a long life. And the beauty about this YAG machine and the fact that the stencil is made out of stainless steel, that it's the consumable part of the whole thing.
Brilliant.
Highly consumable part with a high value. So the guy says to me, what are you doing for dinner tonight? And I went, this is the English glass guy. I went, no, nothing. Where are you staying? So I told him, and he said, I'll meet you there. We'll have a beer in the bar. And I went, okay, fine. So we sat down in this bar over a pint and a bar meal. And he said, now I've seen your existing product. If you're going to design something for my industry, it needs to do this and this and this, and we don't want a change of code. We want the stencil one piece, so it can't be played with, et cetera, et cetera. How would you put this together? And I looked at him and I went, it's a piece of cake, mate. And he said, I'm listening to you, but I can't see anything. I went, okay, grab the napkin, out with the pen. Boom, 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 boom. This is exactly how it's going to work. Now, the original one looked like a paint spray gun. So you had a forward nozzle and you had a pickup tube in the bottom with a hose going back to a hopper, and you drew the abrasive up and you blasted it out, and it had a round head on it, so that as you blasted it, vacuumed back inside the head. That was the whole thing behind it. Great for doing what it was originally designed to do in Australia, not great for doing this more sophisticated thing. So what we had to do in the whole exercise, after I draw it, he went, can you produce this? And I went, piece of cake. Of course I can. We had to come up with a small air compressor, a small tank to hold the abrasive is, and we would probably put this whole thing on a hand truck so the glazier could take it off his vehicle, his installation vehicle, and wheel it into a job site in a shopping centre or whatever, put the glass in and go, psh, there it is. And it had to happen within seconds, right? It had to make this mark within seconds because time is money.
Yep.
Here it is. from the drawing.
Okay, hang
to
on.
a working-
Benji, is he? Oh, Benji's not there. Oh, look at that. Oh, goodness me. Okay, you're here. Yep.
Can you see that? Okay, so
Wow.
I'm going to show you the back end. There's the back end.
Yeah.
So the top hole is compressed air. The bottom hole is abrasive feed, and the middle hole is the exhaust of the abrasive going back to the hopper, right? It's turned off and on
Yep.
by this trigger mechanism. And this is the
Yes.
front end. And there's a recess, which you can't clearly see in the camera, I think, but there's a recess there
Yeah,
where
no,
the
I can see
stencil
it, yep.
sits in there. And it actually holds in there almost like a magnet. It won't come away. And then there are feeder holes, these little tiny holes just here, which allow atmosphere to be
Yes.
drawn in to help the vacuum side. And then on the inside, we'll just show you this
I
quickly,
love it.
is the nozzle. This is what I do. I just have these, like you, brain waves,
Yeah.
God given, I think.
Oh, God,
sometimes.
man. You're
But
miles
there's-
ahead of me.
There's the
I like
blasting
brushes.
nozzle. And then
Yeah.
on either side of that, the black mounting that's holding the blasting nozzle is like a D shape reversed. That's where the
Yeah.
abrasive goes back up through the center. So right in here, there's a nozzle facing forwards, which is the one you can see, but there's an equal nozzle facing backwards, which pushes the abrasive
Ha.
back down through to the hopper. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
is it
this is all
it's
drawn on-
recycling it then, right?
Yeah,
It's only
it's picking
the sand or whatever you call it, the abrasive is
Yep.
being used over and over again. So
Yep, incredibly fine abrasive, so fine it's almost like flour, but enough to cut glass.
wow.
Yeah,
wow.
really exciting stuff. So
What is it?
here
But
it is
can
on
I
paper.
ask what it is? Is it silicon dioxide or something like that?
It's a form of aluminium oxide.
Oh,
Aluminium
there you
oxide.
go.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
So-
So like what's in
so-
toothpaste?
yeah, not unlike that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did a
there you
lot of groundwork to get that abrasive
Wow.
100% right. Believe me.
I'll bet you
So-
did. Yeah.
Yeah. So here it is on a drawing. I've never created this product. It's on a drawing, and I've on a napkin, and I've sold it. And he said, tomorrow morning we're going back into the boardroom, and I'm going to tell them what I want commercially, right? So okay,
Yeah.
good. We part company after a few more beers, shake hands, see you later, going to bed. I'll pick you up in the morning and I'll drive you into their boardroom. He's on the phone to them at 7 o'clock in the morning saying, you will not believe what I saw last night, blah, 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 blah. Now I walk into a boardroom that's got all the directors in it. Chairman of the board. This company was bigger than what I thought it was. And of course, my UK glass guy has walked in and he said, fellas, I'm telling you right now, this thing has got legs. If Paul can produce a working model, it's got legs. It will go into every glazier, bar none, in the UK, because I can push the legal button to make that happen. And if that works, and we will launch it inside Pilkington, so we'll get their tick of approval. If that works, I can tell you right now that Germany is the next location that we're going to introduce this law. So I'm thinking, oh shit, right? So this is happening in the boardroom. Paul's mechanical brain is going, whoa,
Yeah.
what have I just walked into? One, I've got to prove it. Two,
Yes.
where's the financial gain?
Who owns it? Who owns it?
What's in it for me? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
So the conversation when you're in a room of mixed people is bouncing around like I don't know how to describe. It's just everybody
Yeah.
had their own view and opinion and wanted to express that opinion. And, you know, we're now at morning tea time, the coffee's wheeled in and it's still going on by midday. And at 1 o'clock, someone said, no, I'm going to take you out to lunch. Take a breather. And at this stage, nothing is locked down. I'm holding everything close to my chest because I know that napkin is the key to the whole thing, right? So I'm taken to lunch, two guys, and I'm wined and dined. Paul, my mate, this is bigger. This is bigger than what you can ever conceive. Can you do it? Yes, I can. So we would like to have the distribution, the manufacturing rights. We don't want to deal with your guy in Australia at all. As far as we're concerned, he's a shark, and disappointingly so. We want to deal with just you, and we're here to talk about what's in it for you and why. But he said, I have one question. Is it patentable? And I went, yes, it is. It's 100% patentable, because there are 7 Venturis in the entire design. And I can tell you right now, with all my knowledge and skill, no one has come up with the way to build this bloody thing. And he went, yep, I 100% believe you. Let's sit down when we get back to the office, and just the 3 of us will talk through how we are going to roll with this. But he said, to give you some thinking process between now and when we arrive, we want to own the patents, bar none. I went, okay. And he said, enough said. We'll now talk about it in the boardroom. So away we went back to the boardroom, and we sat down. And by the end of the day, we thrashed out an agreement. They brought in a shorthand secretary who wrote it up and then typed it out in draft form. And then it was like, okay, we're now going to go off to a patent attorney, and we'll all sign this agreement. We'll go off to a patent attorney, and we want to know from that patent attorney, based on your napkin design, whether this has got legs or not. And he said, but is it possible tonight for you to draw it up on an A4 sheet of paper rather than the napkin? And I went, yeah, I can do that based on that. And I always carry a few basic drawing instruments with me anyway. It's just my nature. Drawing the plane sometimes, we all do that. Anyway,
yes.
Sure enough, that night I drew it up in some form, but not giving away everything. And, it was still a very sketchy sketch. We walk into this patent attorney, and it's put in front of him under a deed of non-disclosure from them and from him. And so I've got still control of all this. And they said to him, what's your thoughts? And he said, yep, I agree with Paul. It's highly patentable. Let's make it happen. So we can write this up. End result was, we said, thanks very much, paid the bill, went back to the office. And then it was a matter of, okay, let's talk about the mechanics. You can't stay here in the UK, so you can't engage UK engineering shops to start to build this thing. And you're due to fly back to Brisbane anyway. Here's the deal. We will pay you a salary to remain in Brisbane, to engage with a suitable engineering company to build the prototype. We want 2 of these prototypes to be built and tested in Australia, and then we want you to fly back here with those prototypes for further product testing to make sure that we're happy with everything. And we would expect that we will engage you for 2 years, and we want you to live over here for that period, and we will pick up your accommodation, and you'll be paid a salary for your services. We will hold the patent, and we will pay you a royalty for every unit manufactured. And I went, yep, I can live with that.
Fair
royalty
deal. Yep.
Is, as far as I'm concerned, is a fairly good deal. So again, a second agreement was raised for that, and I come back to Australia and engaged a company in Brisbane to build to my spec with their input, their engineering input, to refine it. And we built the prototypes, and that took 3 months. And then it was like, okay, I'm ready to come back, which was January, as the snow was still lightly falling. And we flew back, and they put me up in a hotel complex initially, and then into then I leased an apartment through them. So the salary offset the apartment. So my salary was pure money, not affected by accommodation. Car and car blanche in the UK market. We set up a test machine. So one unit was for ongoing testing, and the second unit was for show and tell. And we located a company in the UK with a YAG laser that could do all the laser cutting. So I was, traveling out of London to negotiate all this, and there was a lot of negotiating that I was doing, getting the compressor, getting everything together, so it was a ready to go to market product, and they were happy. Meanwhile, the testing machine was automated, so we had this thing, and literally it was in a vertical position, and it would turn the trigger on and vertically come down and make contact with the glass, and then turn the trigger off and retract. And of course, there was to be no abrasive left on the glass whatsoever, and then move the glass along. The end result was they end up using waste material of their film, which was not unlike a toilet roll. It was just an endless roll, about half the width of a toilet roll, on an automated machine, and it just come out a little bit at a time, and you could see, the stencil come up on the material, and then would move on again and go on to another reel. So it was like a reel to reel movie, if you like, that sort of scenario.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Worked perfect. So the next thing was, okay, we're now happy with the testing. You're off to Pilkington Glass at St Albans, and we want them to see the unit. You're going up there with the glass guy, the man.
You're full time this gig, right? You've left the other gig.
Yeah. That guy back in the Gold Coast got a real slap over the face from me for what he did to me, because he embarrassed my reputation, my good name, So finished with him completely. He never saw the end.
He just made a critical mistake.
Never saw the end product, and never got any more business out of the people in Melbourne. So that was, they just drew the line. They went, no, we've got enough machines. We're fine. We can handle it from here. So that product fell over. I've still got that original product in storage. So I never let go of my samples,
Yeah.
Anyway, so we go to Pilkington. Pilkington in St Albans go, big meeting. Yeah, we love it. We can see how this could roll out. They have some thoughts about, could we sell it to the glaziers? So they're looking at a distribution model because they're selling the glass.
Yep.
And of course, there's a whole lot of other independent distributors. The guys in the compressed air industry would have been interested in selling this to the glazing shop in the villages and towns that they visit. So it's got massive legs, right? So the next minute, Pilkington say to me, before we've left the premises, we have a problem in Dublin. If we paid your airfare and accommodation, would you be prepared to go to Dublin on our behalf and do a demonstration? Take the machine with you, or we'll organise it to be there in advance, and make all that happen. I went, yeah, sure, I can do that. So of course they picked up the tab. I got to see Dublin for the first time in my life, which was a bonus.
Yep.
Hire car was at the airport. No GPS. There's a street directory and a map. Find your own way. Eventually, I got there, welcomed into the premises, and we're talking to these Irish guys, and we're marking glass, and they're just grinning from ear to ear. You got no idea how great this is for us. So I'm thinking, wow, my biggest dream is starting to come true. I got a product that's consumable. I got a royalty on every unit before it even leaves Brisbane. So the idea is that there's a batch of 50 or 100 units. It's ready to go. There's your invoice. Pay the invoice, and send me my commission. And once that's done, the goods leave Brisbane for the UK. And of course,
fantastic.
You don't need shipping; it's all air freight. So I'm yeah, come on, Big Daddy, let's go. Walk out of Ireland, they're happy with it. The reports go back to Pilkington, and the guys in London turn around and say, okay, we're going to get 50 built. 50. And I went, it's too many on the first order, because if there's a bug and we can't find it,
right,
you've got
talk
50.
my language. Yep.
Bring it back to 20.
Yep.
Let's bring that in. And the moment it arrives, pull a few samples out of the batch, run them up, because you can still sell them as a test machine, and then let's see where that lands. So sure enough, there was a bug. There was a bug, because by this time I'm back in London, and the engineer back in Brisbane is left to his own devices. And what does he do?
No. He knows better than you.
Of course he does. I'm going to play with this. Remember, there are 7 Venturis, and in some cases these are precision tubes. Change them a fraction of a millimeter, and the thing doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And of course, the big factor here is not the delivery of the abrasive. The big factor is the extraction of the
abrasive.
Right?
Yep.
And of course, he's tapped into my filter guy, and he said, well, I can get a cheaper filter. So the abrasive is coming back into the hopper, and then it's got to evacuate through a filter that sits on top of this hopper. The hopper is only, I don't know, 18, 20 inches high. It's not a big hopper.
Right.
So what does he do? He goes after a cheaper filter cartridge, because there's money in it for him, and he changes some of the models. And the next minute, this batch arrives, and what do? They follow my recommendation. We'll pull 2 out, we'll put them on the testing machine, and guess what?
Residue left. Yep.
Residue left, right? And I'm going, oh, maybe it's static electricity, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But at the end of the day, there was no way in the world I could avoid stripping the whole thing down, matching it with the original, and going, there's your problem. Of course, now they're screaming at him, fix it. Fix it. Now, engineering drawings were done before I left Brisbane on the original design. So he had the drawings.
Yep.
So now a period of time has gone by, because, you know, Pilkington's happening, all these other things are happening, and I'm only allowed 6 months on a visitor's pass before I've got to go back. And we're talking June, July now, so it's like we're in summer holidays. Go back to Brisbane, go and fix it up. I go back to Brisbane for 2 weeks to catch up with my family, and slap this engineer around, and it's like, okay, Paul. Well, look, what I'll do is I'll build another unit. And you take that back with you when you go back, and test it in there in your conditions, and just find out where it is. So what do? I take the unit back and fit it all up, and we test it, and it's like, okay, this one is now working as it should work, and I'm happy with it. So they said, all right, well, we'll do some modifications to the 20 that we've built. So now bring over the parts and fit them. So I'm still now warehouse bound, blue jeans, spanner, tools, refitting all these units and trying to get the marketing machine moving forward. So by now they've produced a nice glossy brochure. Now they're starting to talk to people. And we roll forward. In November, they say, Paul, we're going to change the circumstances. I went, okay, so what's the change of circumstances? The change of circumstances is some of our franchises with fitting the laminate onto the car windows are not doing too well. We've had to prop them up. We're in financial difficulties from propping them up, and we're going to have to send you back to Australia, and we'll continue to make an arrangement with you, but we need to have a pause in the agreements. And here's your airline ticket back to Oz. So fortunately, because of my demand to have samples, I had two. I had one back in Australia and I had one in the UK. So the one in the UK, I packed it up and shipped it back to myself without them knowing it. I basically stole
Right.
it, to be frank,
Yep.
right? But
Yes.
my attitude was, I need to know that I've got control of this product. So what happened was I got back to Brisbane and the product's there. And now they've turned around and said, yeah, we owe you some money, but we don't have it right now. Of course, I'm screaming because it's coming up to Christmas, and now I don't have a
Yeah.
dedicated everyday income stream. So I'm on the phone to second highest in the company. I'm yelling and screaming at him, and I said, well, put it this way, I'll stop the supply line 100% if you don't pay me out what's due to me. The check was there within 2
Fair
days.
call. Yeah,
Right?
well done. Yep.
Lodged. So in this period, I've been sending back all of my income to my wife to put it into our bank account for that rainy day. We're now rebuilding our fortunes.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, wifey is playing fun and games with the money. And I walk back into, by the way, there's a limited amount of money in the account, and we've got bills to this value. Yeah, my
No
13-year-old
way.
son had the latest Mac computer, the latest guitar, the latest this, the latest that, which wasn't a pretty sight. So
No.
within 12 months, the divorce, just that was it. Separation. She's all over and done with Charlie, because I come
Yeah.
back and I was supposed to, prop up what I term as total disrespect to the inconvenience and the hard work that I did. And that's another life story. But the end result was they went belly up. The patent is still there in my name as the designer, not the owner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, they didn't pay the registration fees. So the product is anybody's game that wants to try and figure
No
out
way.
the patent document and build it off the patent document, which you couldn't, because the patent document is so abstract
Yes.
compared
Nice.
to the
The
thing.
real product.
So the market is still there. The finance to make that work, because now I know better. I know where the bugs were, and
Yeah.
it's another thing that's on my will I do this or not list. Could I do it? Yes, I could. Could I finance it? No, I don't want to. But it's still there. The interesting thing is that in the United States, they've tried to do the same thing and it's come off second best, because what happened was the 20 odd units that were built, the English company tried to sell the patent rights and the product to a US company,
Ha.
and they got a small amount of stock in, and then the US company went, no, we're not doing this anymore. We've taken a different road, and they bailed out of it. So the market is there, and it's an interesting market. Now, moving along. I come out of that circle, and now I'm back to square one again. Oh my God, Father, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So one of the good things that I was doing is that when I was living in London, no TV. I just turned around and went, I'm not having a TV set. I don't want to buy one. I don't want to have one. And so I had to keep my mind occupied. I went and bought some more drawing instruments, and I sat in that. It wasn't even a one-bedroom apartment, Perry. It was a kitchen with an open plan
like a
living
studio.
room off that.
Yeah, studio, I think they call them now.
And
Yeah.
you slept on the couch. Well, I slept on an inflatable bed for 12 months. And the shower, well, you
How old are you now?
I'm now 52, 53.
Right.
53, thereabouts, right? Shouldn't be in this position at all, but hey, I'm doing the hard yards. Right?
That's how we roll.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So now I'm in this place of a night time and I'm drawing, and my head is going back around my Dragon Pump product. How can I make Dragon Pump into a new generation of technology that no one has figured out? That was my stimulus. And so some of the stuff that was in the tool I just showed you was actually also in the tool of the Dragon Pump. Different ways, but nevertheless, the conceptual idea was still there, right?
Yep.
Now I'm gonna pull the Dragon Pump up again, because this is the next generation after what I drew in that bloody chair stuck that I drew up after the UK exercise. So I come back into Australia, and at the time it didn't have all this knob on it.
Right.
The guts of it, what was going on inside was state-of-the-art technology. Absolutely. And how you know it's state-of-the-art technology is it recovers waste oil faster than anybody else. It'll fill a drum quicker than anybody else. You can have a much longer hose that anybody else can't compete with. And what I did was a whole generation of models. In actual fact, I launched 2 models, but I have 6 for the global market. 4 I've kept back. I've actually got them, and like most bloody inventors, I'm holding them onto my chest going, when? And it frustrates me because I know what I want to do, but I can't quite get there right now. You know, there's all the government in Australia is about to throw a whole lot of money around to get manufacturing geared up again. Hopefully, I might look at that and say, yeah, I'll take a manufacturing grant and I'll run it. Will I run it and market it myself? No. I may turn around and sell the invention as an invention and let somebody else do the marketing and the manufacturing and just be done with it, you know? Because that other side, that distribution side, is so bloody hard.
Oh,
you know,
it's
you
hard work.
offer a discount and the guy says, "Oh no, mate, I need this minimum for my business." And to you, the business looks attractive. You want it, but do you give them the extra discount to get it? And then will they sit on their ass when they've got it? How do you control that? And that's another subject that we'll come up with.
No, that's why we sell direct, bro, because of all these things, right? I've also got this experience. Yeah.
So here I am now, and I'm now in a modern world. The internet has exploded. Everybody's doing all this stuff with the net and websites and all the rest of it. And I'm back in Australia in a semi-divorce situation with my capital sucked up by my ex going, I've got to survive. So I join a men's group.
And you've still got a responsibility, by the way, isn't it? Because you've got a kid under 18, you know.
Don't get rid of that.
And you still want that kid to have the best life possible.
You never get rid of that, even when your kids are married and got kids of their own. You never get rid of it.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, so I joined this men's club. There's a group of about 25 guys that come together once a month or once a fortnight or whatever, and shoot down a few beers and pat each other on the back and tell them how good they are. And they come from all different worlds, you know. So you got to sift the chaff from the hay, and where's the guy that I'm compatible with? And up come this particular bloke, and you've met him. This is the guy that you met when you come to my warehouse on the Gold Coast, right? I don't know how much, I don't remember how much time you had with him, but you did meet him.
Yeah.
And this is the guy that's on the website that I sent you as hey Perry, have a look at this as a business model. Nevertheless, so I meet him, and he's an ex-Qantas flight steward. Do you want the chicken or the beef? Do you want the red or the white? Do you want a glass of water? You know, don't forget to put on your safety belt, whatever. This is all this guy knows. So he's doing long haul around the world. And when he arrives in LA, and he's got to sit there for a week before they can put him on a plane and rotate him back into Queensland, he's got to do something. And he got sick and tired of doing the tourist thing. So he started to develop his own skills with how to design a website. And he was bloody good at it. And so we sat down one day and he showed me what he could do with a website. I went, whoa, this is intriguing. And I showed him my abrasive blasting coating thing, and of course that intrigued him. But what I also had was 100 different products inside my Blowvac company, samples that I still retain today. So even though they grabbed my company, they didn't grab what was up here, and all of my finesse with my product, right? So anyway, I pulled some of this out, and he said, "Wow, I've never seen anything like this in my life." And I went, "Yeah, well, you know, there's a starting point here that I've got, which I designed up while I was in the UK. And by the way, I've applied intellectual property around it. So it is mine." And he said, "Yeah," but he said, "Would you consider setting up a business between us, 50-50, your product, my knowledge, my money, will roll it out." Well, you need an income. What do you do? Here's an opportunity that's on the table. He seemed like a nice enough guy. So you take him on face value, and you've come to understand his background and his family and all. I mean, I met the wife and the kids. So I went, okay, fine. Off we go. So initially it was like, I really didn't have a true place that was compatible for building stuff. So we got a little storage shed initially for probably 2 months, and put a bit of stuff in there, and we started building stuff. And then he went, "Paul, I can't work out of here. You know, I need the computer. We need some power. Let's get a little office. We'll find one somewhere," which we did. Tiny, just over a room. We were cramped.
Was it were you in a Kennards? Was it Kennards, or were you in one of the other franchises?
Type of an opposition to Kennards, but that's sort of.
Okay. Because we started Reach It from a Kennards storage in Auburn, Sydney.
Did you?
Right?
There you go.
Yes. Yep. And Harrison would go down. We got the little shed, then we got the bigger shed, then we got the rolling door shed. Open out onto the driveway, and then Harrison left school at 4:16. And then he was assembling our first pure water system, that I designed back then in a Kennards. Yeah, hilarious.
Wow. Yeah. See, we got so much parallel going between you and me.
That's amazing.
So anyway, he sits down behind his computer and he starts designing the website. I'm in another part of this office area, which is probably not much bigger than the room I'm in right now. There's a standard 4-bedroom house, so standard bedroom. And I've got a vertical drill, and I'm drilling things, and I'm running around to engineers that I knew and went, "Hey, can you put this together for me?" Boom, 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 and we're assembling it, and we've got just one model to go to market with, one product. And he said, "Okay, Paul, the website's up. Now what do you do?" And I said, "I start ringing guys." So what happens? I start ringing guys, remembering that I had the Houghton experience with the original pump. Yeah. So now I've got to go in direct opposition to my own company.
Yeah.
And my own company had the name Dragon Pump. But when they acquired the company, there was no registered trademark. They let most of the trademarks go. So in that period of losing the company, getting back in to, and we're now talking 2005, 2006, so 1998, 8 years gone by, and now I'm looking at the thing and I'm going, okay, guess what? I'm going to trademark Dragon Pump and Super Dragon Pump. And sure enough, it went through. That's my property, not my new partner's property, and the IP or the patent is also at this stage mine. So it's like I'm loaning it to the company, but in the interest of I've got an income now and you've got an income now, and we're going to roll this forward. So what do? Away we go. And he's tapping into my brain going, well, we've got one product. Can we get two? Can we get three? And of course I'm going, yeah, we can. So I roll this thing forward, and it's now really starting to get legs. Now we've got end users coming in over the phone going, I want one of those things. Here's the money. And some of them were BHP. Some of them were big companies. So
Yeah.
we designed a compressed air powered vacuum, which is the industry that I'm sitting in right now, mounted on a 200-litre open top drum for vacuuming up sandblasting material and other abrasives. And now we've employed his father-in-law, who's 65, and he's in a new location, and he's building out the back, and we're up there selling, marketing, you name it, we're doing it. All of a sudden the market's asking for something bigger than what we've got. And I go, okay, we can do this. And the next minute, the insulation scheme kicked in Australia. So
Yeah,
this is
2000,
where the government,
2009, the 2008 crash, what do they call it?
2008.
GFC, right? GFC.
Yep.
And then what happened
Yep.
is everybody went to America. There was a G20 meeting. This is just give everybody the background, the people, especially young people, right?
Yep.
So the world, the money at the top of the world at Wall Street disappeared. And
Totally.
so that means that they weren't going to pay their bills, which means the
Yep.
next level down weren't going to pay their bills. The next level down weren't going to pay their bills. And in that period of time, anybody paying 30 days would end up going to 60 or 90. And then they forced the people down the chain. And that took, to get to Australia, that would take let's say around 2 years, that would come down, and then it'd be this massive crash. So what the G20 recommended to every government in the world is to throw money at the bottom of the pipe and get the people spending money. So then the money would be coming up, and while there was no money coming down, they could funnel and print money and try and restart the big money. And meantime, the little money. So not only like what Australia did, gave every home like the money to put fiberglass or any form of insulation, spray insulation, doesn't matter what it was it like insulation into the roofs. And then you had $500 per kid. You had $500 per kid in school, $500 for this, $500 for that, $500 for anything, like anything they could think of. Here's $500. I think I got like $3,500, back then, for my situation. Yeah.
It was an absolute big killing. And the interesting part was for us was people started to ring up and wanted our compressed air powered drum vacuum to pull the old insulation out so they could get the new insulation in, right? Now, it opened up a big market of con men. There were guys doing some terrible things to people's houses and walking away with massive amounts of money, right? Which was coming from the government. Our vacuum
and by the way, there was a really interesting time because I was somewhere involved in that, like somewhere observing something, but there was a lot of first generation Australians were actually getting in on that and then sending all that money back to their home country and then bolting. They went back like millionaires in their own countries.
Oh yeah. And there were guys that were just putting all the bundles up into the ceiling and not laying it out and getting back down and going, say, maybe your house is done, give us the money, see you later. Oh, terrible stuff. Nevertheless, so here's the market screaming, going, we can't find anything to suck this insulation out. The electric vacuum cleaners that were out in the marketplace wouldn't do it. They just clogged up too quickly. The filters couldn't handle it. I took one look at it and I went, no, there's another way of doing this. And my partner went, okay, well, I don't know how to do it. Do you know how to do it? Yes, I do. And he said, okay, well, I'm in your hands. So Paul, the inventor, come up with an 8x5 twin axle trailer with a vacuum system on it. And this was diesel powered motor, and we started building them. So the father-in-law, the 65-year-old father-in-law and myself were on the tools on the warehouse floor, which is the warehouse that you arrived at. And we were
I'm going to say this is the time that I'm there.
We were building these things as fast as we could churn them out the door. And these were $45,000 to $55,000 packages. And they would take on average 3 weeks to build a single unit. So we were talking to the trailer manufacturers, hey, send me over a trailer. The trailer would arrive galvanized from wherever, and then we would start to put all the capture tanks and power system on it and bolt it all down. And, you know, we had guys that were buying light trucks in Melbourne and then having the local Gold Coast distributor deliver the truck to our warehouse so we could fit the truck up.
Build it straight onto them. Right.
Yeah. We had a company in Perth that bought 3 of them and got the entire town of Esperance in Western Australia to remove all of the insulation in every house in that town, because it turned out they found that every house had lead contamination, because there's a big shipping port in there and all the iron ore comes in and all the grain comes in, and the houses in the ceilings were contaminated. So the government went, we'll award the contract to this company. They bought 3 trailers. Those trailers are still working today. So, and one of the last sale ever made is literally 15 minutes away from where I'm living right now, and I'm in contact with that guy. So now we're away and we're building these trailers.
Again.
We're making a good quid.
Yeah.
We're making a good quid, right? And it's like, okay, this is steaming along. And then all of a sudden, we had a guy up from Sydney. He had sent us the deposit, and he come up to have a look at a finished trailer that we had, which wasn't his, but his was next in line, right? He wanted to see it before he sent us the balance, because everything was paid up front. We wouldn't build until all the funds were actually on the floor. So up he come, and we took him out to lunch. We're sitting at this riverside, beautiful bloody restaurant, spending big money on him because we could afford to do it at the time. And his phone rang, and it was his wife. And she said, "Where are you?" And he said, "I'm having lunch with the boys, you know, and they're taking me down to the airport this afternoon, and I'll be back tonight." And she said, "You haven't listened to the radio or the TV?" And he said, "No, why?" She said, "The government just canned the insulation scheme 100%. They've stopped it right now. So I don't know where you are with this machine." Yep, don't know where you are with this machine, but while you're up there, you may want to talk to the boys about what you're going to do. And it turned out that young kid that was in the ceiling made contact with an
electrocuted himself.
Electrocute himself, and they shut it down without. We lost him, unfortunately. But now we're sitting there over lunch, and this guy is going white in the face, and we can't hear the conversation. So he puts the phone down. He says, "Boys, this is what's going on." And we turn around and went, "No, we're not refunding the deposit. I'm sorry. We've actually committed to the raw material to come in.
Yeah.
So it's your baby." We got paid for it. He delayed us, but we got paid for it. And the trailer went on its way by truck down to Sydney. And he figured he could use it for another industry. So now we're sitting in this office where we've actually switched our whole production from day-to-day semi-consumable product to pushing these trailers out the bloody door. And my partner sits there and he says, "Now what?" Now, lucky for him,
I love
already
people
looking
like
for
that.
the next market.
Yeah.
I was looking for the next market, and the next market was gutter vacuuming. And we've talked about gutter vacuuming.
Yeah, we have, and we will. Yeah.
All the knowledge that I accumulated on this trailer,
from the
all
insulation,
I had to do was scale it down and turn it into a semi-compact trailer vacuum system.
Yes.
Right? So what happens? I walk my partner through this, as good partners do, and he said, "Bloody hell, this is bigger than the insulation thing." And I went, "Yeah, you're talking a mowing franchise, a lawn mowing franchise, or a power wash franchise. This is something that guys can buy and go out and earn an income with, right?" That was exciting to us. And he said, "Paul, I hear you, I believe you, I understand you, but we can't do it the way we've done it before. We can't turn around and just sell the product and take the profit that we deserve and then wait for the next order. What I want to do is franchise it." And I went, "Okay." And he said, "I want a passive income. I want something where every week we've got money coming in, no matter what we do."
Not bad for an air stewardess. you know.
Yeah,
Or Stuart.
he's switched on all right.
Sorry.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah,
I give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah, fair call.
And right now, a formidable opposition. Although by the time I get South Africa and the UK into position, he's going to wonder what in the bloody hell hit him, because I'm coming from below ground and I'm going to be like a volcano before long. Anyway, nevertheless, he says, let's do it. So what do we need? We now need some government assistance. And as it turned out, the same government we've got right now was the government of the day back then. Yep. So he starts to tap into the government coffers, puts his hand up, and we get a government grant for 65 grand on the back of my patent for Dragon Pump. And so we have this guy that comes down. He's like the big inspector. He's got to go through our business, look at everything. I'm not going to even answer that. I'm just going to let go. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I could have
mate.
turned the phone off, but it'll go. So anyway, he says, "Yep, okay, we can do this, but we want you to take on a coaching organization so that we know and have a report from the coaches that you're doing the business model.
Training regime is properly,
we want a business plan. We want a whole lot of things. So, of course, we're going to get 65 grand. Bloody oath we're going to do that. It's good for us. It's good for the business. It's good for every reason. So my partner decides that his ability is on the keyboard. He can type faster than me. He can put it together. Paul, you maintain the mechanics of the business. I'll work in the background on putting the manual together.
Yeah.
Right? Great. We're away. We're not a divided business. We're both on the same page, both heading in the same direction, parallel energy. He has a problem of sleeping. So he gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning because his brain's turning over and he's going, I'm working for 4 o'clock. His wife's still asleep. By the way, she's a hostie as well. So she's flying in and out, trying to manage two teenage daughters at this stage. This is all going on in the background. And I'm not aware of his marital position or anything else. That's I'm not interested. So I've got my nice apartment. I'm working away at this thing. We're making bloody good money. And I'm now putting together the gutter vacuum machine. And lo and behold, our distributor in Sydney comes up for a visit and says, "What are you guys doing?" I said, "Oh, we're doing this." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And he had a range of electric vacuums. What happens? He jumps the plane back because he's buying our everyday semi-consumable small product. And he redesigns his electric vacuum cleaner to have 3 motors on it and 3-phase power with a generator, and he creates an electric model which sits lower than where we are. So we've got the big model that does all the bells and whistles, and he's got the small model that does just single stuff. Okay, so his father's in the finance industry, and this guy goes out and he starts to sell these things. He's getting traction. He's doing a couple of YouTube videos, and it's starting to work for him. Dad's getting old and says, "Son, I want you to give up that business and come into the finance business with me, finance leasing, and take it over. And I'm just going to, take a rest. Sell up your business, get rid of it." So the son did, and he sold the business model to a guy in Melbourne who I know, and I've connected you with that company to have a look at, right? So now that guy in Melbourne takes that business model and starts to understand it and generate it forward. Meanwhile, we're back up in the Gold Coast going, we're going to start turning these things out under this semi-franchise thing. If it looks like a franchise and smells like a franchise, it's a franchise. We had to sit outside of that business model, right?
Yes.
So what happens? Paul, you're the salesman. Get out there and find some people that want to take it up. I get two guys, one locally, one out of Port Macquarie of all bloody places. And these blokes are anxious. And we've now miniaturized this down to a purpose-built trailer, a beautiful looking product, works like a treat. It's a no-brainer. You just simply turn the ignition key on, the petrol motor kicks in, instantaneous vacuum, big hose reel. You can just pull the hose out, do the gutter cleaning, finish up, turn the handle, bring all the hose back in, go off and dump your product if you want to, or go on to the next job whenever you want to. We figured out the rate. We figured out everything that you could ever want, which was in a portfolio, which I showed you personally earlier in the week by email.
Yes.
So all the training was all set up. So now these two potential franchisees, I'll use that word with tongue in cheek, agents, if you like, go.
Yes, agents is the right word.
We'll put our money on the table. Let's go. So we got the deposits up on the basis that we would have a 2-day training session to teach them how to use this machine, and we would build into that program selling our consumable smaller product to service stations, to all sorts of things, and this included the Dragon Pump. So in that area, my partner needed me to roll out what was a documented business model. In today's market, I could put, using this folder and this business model, I could put a fleet of vans on the road like a Snap-on Tools van, and each and every one of those guys would have an ongoing income. No doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. And there's been a change in the Australian market in the vacuum industry where a 100-year-old company just went to the wall. And that opens up an even bigger gap for my business model in Australia. And this business model could be taken anywhere in the world, by the way. All right. But it's not unlike a Snap-on Tools thing. Okay. So now the big day is arriving. We've booked a conference room in a local hotel complex. We've organized the food. We've organized the restaurant to have the 4 of us there for lunch break and also for dinner. And one of the big things in the relationship with my partner was that we had breakfast with each other each and every day. And over breakfast, we would talk about the past week, the past days, today, what we were doing, and the days in front of us on what we wanted to do and achieve.
Wow.
So this communication was unbelievably strong between us. And I drove this like crazy. I just went, we've got to be at the restaurant at 7:30 to have a leisurely breakfast. We're done by 8:30. We're in the office and we're turning on the phones and we're into it, And of course, it was all tax deductible, so we could do that without any problems. It formed that folder. It formed that folder. So here we are, Monday morning. Our 2 guys are due to arrive. My partner and I are having breakfast. And we're sitting opposite each other and we're just, I'm full of anticipation. He's talking about, I'll do the introduction and then you do this bit and then I'll take over. So we're leapfrogging each other to keep everything moving and nothing's going to happen. Both of the customers have got identical age, 19-year-old sons that are coming in to help them as an assistant, right? So these guys are in their 50s. So they're switched on blokes, both of them, right? And they're tradies, so they know what they're doing. So I'm sitting down having breakfast and he leans back in his chair and he said, Paul, I've got something to talk about with you. I went, right, okay. And I'm thinking we're running out of time before we've got to, get over the conference room. And he said, I've had some disagreements with my wife over the weekend. And he said, I've got to keep the family unit together. And he said, as a result, because I hold the position I hold inside the company, which is company secretary, I've decided to take you out of the business model. I've changed the share structure.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, you're still getting to know me. You and I have had a gap over this period. You're still getting to know me. But I am a very, very quiet, unassuming type of a guy. I will treat every customer with every honest thing I have in my being. I will, if there's opposition that's better, I will say it.
Yes.
And I will give my knowledge freely. I've given it for no more than a cup of coffee.
Yes.
You know, and people have taken advantage of me over the years, but I don't believe I've ever taken advantage of people. Anyway, I sat there and I'm processing exactly what this guy has now said to me. I could have leaned across the table and just thumped him. No hesitation whatsoever.
Absolutely.
But I'm Mr. Cool, because what's going to go on in 30 minutes is two guys are going to walk into a hotel who depended on me to deliver to them a business model that is going to make them money. Now, part of that business model was that they would use me as their salesperson. So I would go to Port Macquarie and I would stay down there for a week and I'd meet real estate agents and I would say, you know, all the rental homes that you've got on your books, you can convert or offer a service to your clients to have their gutters cleaned, and we will give you a financial feedback for that service. You're helping your client, you're helping us, and you're boosting your real estate.
And you'll benefit
business.
yourself.
So you'd go to a Ray White's or some reputable company, and they could have, you know, who knows, 100, 200 houses on their books. At the same time, I could go into an industrial estate and sell gutter cleaning there. But the other thing is, in the high pressure water blasting business, they have these, I call them whirly gigs. You know, you put them on the ground and you maneuver them around like a lawnmower, and they do all the washing and keep
concrete.
all the water suppressed. Yeah.
I know the one. Yep.
So some of these units have got a vacuum tube on them.
Yep.
My design gutter vacuum machine can actually pull all the water back. So those guys you were interviewing yesterday, I'm sitting there going, I can give them a solution for what they do, but they don't know it. But anyway, there it was. And I'm sitting there going, I've learned so much more about
reclaim.
Yeah, there is so much more business around that. For example, on the Sunshine Coast, if you use that same whirligig to do a roof on side a house, you've actually got to block the drain pipes so it doesn't drain back into the street and create an environmental impact of the industrial fallout that sits on a roof. So it's natural to have a vacuum system to pull the water back. There's a whole lot of bylaws that are going on around environmental impact that just really booster this concept that I have. But I doubt that anybody has got the knowledge that I've got right now to do where this is going to. Now I got telemarketing people trying to reach me. Anyway, so what happens is we walk into the conference room, and I'm just like, Mr. Cool. I am so Mr. Cool. And my partner, which was a pre-arranged, was going to stand up and do the introduction and the welcome, and you know, here's the manual and and the whole deal was the first day was all going to be reading through the manual, getting to understand the marketing techniques, etc., etc. The second day was actually going to be hands-on. So the first guy the local guy already had taken delivery of his machine and paid for it 100% by 2 days prior to the conference. So he was used to it. The second guy was taking delivery and was going to hook it onto his F-250 and drive it back to Port Macquarie. No problems. And I haven't been involved in the assembly of these two trailers. My partner has taken this on, right? And he's gone out to subcontractors to get the best price to make that happen. He said, because I'm tougher than you, I'll get a better deal. And I went, you'll never get a better deal.
No idea.
But you are tougher than what I am. So you do what you need to do, right? I'm busy. I'm doing things, you know, I'm making things happen, getting the income stream moving. So he gets up there and he does his presentation, and that goes from 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock, right? And we take a coffee break, and we have the coffee, and everybody's still talking. But one of those two agents noticed that I was pretty cool. You know, I'm not my normal self getting into conversation. True cool. So coffee's done. We sit down again. We've got the sons and we've got the fathers, and my partner says, so Paul, do you want to take over now? And I said, no, you're doing a great job. Please continue.
Oh,
I left him standing
gorgeous.
there because the second part of it was my special knowledge, right?
Yes.
And I went,
yes.
let's just see how you can ad hoc your way through this. So
Yes.
we get up to lunch, and I'm still being pleasant. And he said, right, we're all going to the restaurant for lunch. So we get out of the hotel complex and we go across to the lakeside restaurant. We're all sitting down having lunch. And I made sure the distance between him and me was double arm's length. He's up one end of the table, I'm up the other. I'm talking to the guy nearest to me, holding the table where I need to hold it, and the rest of it, zip it up, right? So now we come back from lunch like 1:30, where it was an extended lunch break, and we're sitting down. And he said, Paul, you know, do you want to take over? And I said, yeah, okay, I'll make a few words. So 15 minutes is the maximum I gave them, 15 minutes. And I said, look, I'm sorry, I'm a bit dry in the throat. Rob, do you want to, you know, take it back over again? So that went until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, the location of the hotel and my apartment was walking distance. So it's all over. Everybody's heading off in the direction that they want to head off in. And he says to me, can I drive you home? And I said, no, thanks. I'll walk. After what you've done to me today, I really don't want to be too close to you. I'll walk. And he said, are you going to be available tomorrow? Because we're going out to my rural property to show the guys how this all works. And I've got the machine already out there. And I said, yeah, fine. So the following day, I'll go back to the end of this day. So the end of the day, the local guy rang me and he said, something's wrong. I can smell it. You know, your demeanor has just changed through the whole conference. What's going on? You know, we've known each other for a while. You need to be honest with me. What the hell's going on? And I said, I'm not going to talk about it over the phone. I'll talk to you eye to eye, but I'm not going to talk about it over the phone. And he said, come over to my place for a beer. And he said, if you need to stop for, you know, because he knew I was now a bachelor, come and have a barbie or whatever with the family, which was his wife and his 19-year-old son. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll come over. So I drive over, sit down. It took a couple of beers to loosen me up with him just nagging. Right. Eventually I went, you know, look, it's going to happen.
He had a right to know, by the way. He had a right to know,
Of course he did. Yeah. So I put it on the table and he went, my godfather, this is bloody terrible news. And he said, so what are you going to do? And I said, well, it doesn't change me from what I intended to do. I can still go out and I can still sell your service, but the income is going to have to come from you. It can't come from me. I can't turn around and just speculate, but I can sell it. And we can move this forward if you want to. I said, but there is one condition on everything that I've told you, and that is it's not going to go outside your home until this is all over. Then we'll see where it lands. But right now, because I haven't had a chance to talk to lawyers or whatever, this is all between you and me and my ex-partner, as far as he knows. So what we've talked about is us, not him. So he went, yeah, okay. Yeah. So the following day, we go out to the rural property. Everybody's there. The new trailer is there that's going down to Port Macquarie. We're going to use that for the demo. And it's all about, you've got to put the safety harness on, and this is how you get up on the roof, and this is what you do with the ladder. You know, we have to go through all the safety operations. And we did that. And the Port Macquarie guy says to his son, right, up the ladder with the safety thing on, go and clean the gutter and let's see how it works. And of course, it all worked. We didn't have cleaning from the ground equipment at that stage. And, you know, of course, in my mind, I'd already seen your product. So I knew that there was possibilities of that concept having legs. Legs. Anyway, as it turned out, the son come down. He said, yeah, Dad, that works like a treat. So my partner went up with a camera and he videoed. He'd already done it before, so he did an after, you know, and he did a couple of shots of the lad up on the gutter with the wand. So everything's done. Now he's going to put on a barbecue lunch, and then it's all over because Port Macquarie's now got to, drive back home, and they're staying at a hotel in Tweed Heads. I think he wanted the RSL down there to pull the pokies or whatever. So anyway, I go, thanks guys, I can't stay for lunch, but best of luck. We'll be talking to you, next week. All done. So I just get in the car and drive away. Done, finished, right? The guy that I had dinner with that night, he's switched on. He knows what's going on, but he hasn't spoken to the guy from Port Macquarie.
Yeah.
And now we've left my ex-partner in his own abode, in his farm, whatever.
Yeah.
Everything's just gone sideways. So the guy hooks the trailer onto his F-250. He has the barbecue lunch and says goodbye, gets in the car, drives back to Tweed Heads, parks it, stays the night, gets up early in the morning, hitches everything up. I'm on my way to Port Macquarie. He's probably the best part of 75 to 100 kilometres out of Port Macquarie. The trailer is going like this, and it's rattling. And he's a mechanical guy. He can drive bulldozers and stuff like this. So he's switched on. He pulls off to the side of the road, gets out, and walks back up to the trailer. And the two bolts that hold the ball coupling onto the ball on the trailer have come loose because they were standard nuts on the inside. They weren't lock nuts, no washers there. So the nuts have come off, the washers have come off, the bolts are just sitting there and the whole thing's rattling. And he goes, I better check the rest of the trailer. He walks up on the outside of the trailer and looks at the outside tyre and went, that looks a bit strange, puts his hand on it. The tyre is absolutely hot. It burned him. He pulled his hand away. He walks around to the other side and it's also hot. Can't figure it out. Don't know what's going on. So he decided to, disconnect the trailer, leave his son with it, and drive to the next tiny town and get a couple of nuts and washers and, come back and fit it all up and then drive it back into Port Macquarie. So he does that. Following day, he's scratching his head going, what the hell has happened? This is bad with this nuts and bolts. So the tyres by this time have cooled off. So he decides to go to the local trailer guy and go, can you just cast your eye over this and make sure that, the trailer, is it the bearings? What is it? Supposedly a brand new trailer, although it's been custom built. So the guy takes one look at the trailer. He said, there's a distinct problem with your trailer. Hold on a minute. Comes back with this humongous right-angled bloody set square and puts it on the corner of the trailer to test the right angle. It's out by that. The whole trailer was welded right angle.
We can hear you, Perry.
Yeah. So
you're muted.
Yep. Okay, I've got you.
Thanks, Benji.
There we go.
So it was crab. Basically, it was being my AirPods have run out of battery, but it was crabbing. Basically, it was crab walking, but crab rolling.
Yep.
Both tires.
So of course, what does he do? He gets on the phone to me and says, hey, what's going on? Because the other guy on the Gold Coast has had a phone call with me and I don't like the sound of it, but he's not going to tell me the whole story. So you better tell me the story right now. And he's aggro at this stage.
Oh God, yes.
So I had no idea the trailer was built. And what had happened is that my partner had taken a brown envelope under the table and skimmed money out of the welder by saying, I'll give you this job if you give me a commission or a fee to the side of invoicing the company, because I don't want the company fully invoiced. I don't care what you invoice the company for, but I want
a percentage
cold hard
personally.
cash.
Yeah.
So he picked up a couple of $1,000 on that. And I found out later on he had done that more than once with our insulation trailers that I had no idea that was going on. So now I'm in a position where the guy in Port Macquarie is going, so what's going on here? You need to disclose me what's going on.
Yeah.
I then disclosed it. I chose to disclose it. And he said, okay, how do you feel about talking to my solicitor? And I said, well, I'm not overly comfortable because I'm still in the partnership from a legal aspect, although he's changed the share certificates, but nevertheless. And he said, don't worry about that. I'm going to pay to get all that cleared up for you, which he did. So I'm on the phone with an ex-barrister who's retired in Port Macquarie and now running the business as a solicitor because he didn't want the responsibility of being a barrister, right? Yeah. But he was happy to advise other solicitors in town on legal matters. But he's literally in total retirement. He's on the phone to me and he's saying, what do you know about your partner? And I said, well, not really a lot. You know, I've taken him on face value. I've met his family, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, well, I've delved into his background and I know more than what you do. And he said, it's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty sight. So he said, I'm going to act for both of your so-called agents in their interests because they're going to join forces. End result was, without going into a large story, end result was that my partner had to buy back both trailers. He had to refund all of the monies given, including accommodation, travel expenses. He tried to fight it off. He went through 2 other legal representatives. Both of them turned around and went, don't want a bar of it. You're a con man. And left him high and dry. So he had no choice. The interesting part was the guy in Port Macquarie made him drive to Port Macquarie. My partner wanted to put it on a truck and send it up, and he went, no way, pal. You're coming to Port Macquarie. I'm going to see your eyes and your face, and you're going to hitch this thing up as it stands and drive it back to the Gold Coast. And he had to. And you know, that was just part and parcel of what was going on. So eventually the accountant had to wind up the business relationship. He signed off on my IP that I would own it, and he was happy to stand back from that. The deal was that he would continue to manufacture machinery, if I can use that expression, and I would just focus on my compressed air product. Of course, he signed off on that. I took back my intellectual property and he signed off on that as well. So I gained my trademarks back. The government grant was all over and dusted, so there was no worries about that. And within 6 months, he was in direct opposition with my Dragon pump, because what he'd done is he'd stolen all the components out of the warehouse and used those to formulate a reverse engineered type of product, right? And that was another experience in my life that I went, yep, been there, done that, boom.
Wow. All right, well, there goes a junction part. I think we have to go to part 4, Paul.
Maybe 5.
Maybe 5.
We're going on 2 hours and 30 minutes.
That's my godfather. Really?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm surprised.
Well, it's a, you know what? It's a valuable historical record of what can happen to anybody who's clever. It's ironic.
It can happen. It can happen to anybody, whether you're dumb or whether you're clever, or no matter what you are.
Yes.
You know, the truth of the matter
you can't be clever enough.
And
you can't be clever enough to pick the scorpion. You can't.
You can't. No matter what you do, you can't. He's got some mental health problems, which is also what we found out about, which I never knew. I worked alongside the man for 4 years, and I never discovered it. But nevertheless, I think the scenario comes back. Trademarks, intellectual property, domain names, design registrations, they're all good, but they're only as good as the money you've got to fight it. And you can be like me and spend $500,000 and not get rewarded at the end of the day, but you win the case.
Yeah.
Or you can sell it and still get screwed, even though you hold all that stuff together. So
it's a farce.
I don't know where a defined corridor or business model is going to work for the world as we know it. And then you see, in your case, Microsoft, the big companies come in and they go, we've got a massive baseball bat that we're going to come at you with. And what do you do? I mean, the Ugg boot story in Australia is a classic. Every Australian knows the Ugg boot story. And that was an Australian product that belonged to us, and it was ripped out of our country without any concern to the people that spent their lives designing it, producing it, manufacturing it, building up the business model, only to have the rug pulled out from underneath them.
Where was that from? Hong Kong? Hong Kong or Singapore?
No, it's from the United States. The US. The US wanted Ugg boots, and they went after it with a vengeance.
Oh, goodness me.
Because it's it's sheepskin. It's sheepskin, and in snow country it stands up. It keeps your legs warm.
Damn right.
The stencil arrived.
Are you kidding me?
Can you see it?
Yes, sir. Pilkington glass. I've seen those marks. I've seen those marks on every window. There you go. It's got little dots above the Pilkington as well, hasn't it? Which changes, I think, by year.
Every train, every bus, every truck has got it. Even your shower screen has got to have a safety mark on it.
Wow.
Incredible business. And you think about the amount of glaziers that are in the UK, there would be thousands of them. Thousands.
Yeah.
Paul,
okay, so we booked next Thursday. I think we've already got the next Thursday, your American time booked, which is our next Friday.
Okay.
But when we get to the end, like, just so you know, you and I are going to talk the interpretation. We don't have to rush the interpretation, the summaries, the conclusions, the advice.
Sure.
We're going to have a whole session on that. We're just going to talk through, from our own experiences, which most people wouldn't know that you've had them. Most people wouldn't know that I've had them, because we just do what we do. You make that tool, I make that tool. That's it. That's all they know.
I must say, in all honesty, I sit here in awe of what you're doing. I understand what you're doing, but I sit in awe of the mind that creates what you create. The length of bristle, the texture of the bristle, the size of the bristle, all those things.
The angle of the bristle. Yep.
Yeah, I've become so aware, and of late, there's a few guys on Facebook here in Australia that are showing themselves cleaning solar panels and cleaning windows, and I'm looking at their rigs and going, "You're doing it wrong, pal. You're doing it wrong," just from what I've watched on your stuff. So there you go.
And what's bizarre is what they're using. Like, when I got into the industry, I looked at it and I was saying, like, window cleaners earn about $60 an hour, maybe 100. Back then it was mostly 60. Roof cleaners and pressure washers and exterior cleaners and surface cleaners and all the exterior guys were all making $250, $300 an hour back then. I mean, we're talking 12 years ago.
Yep.
And I'm going, like, window cleaners are the poor man's service, and I go, what's the difference? And then I looked at the tools and I go, these tools have not been changed for, back then, 60 years.
Yep.
6 years. And so I go, and I go back to the original guys, by the way, the original guys who designed Waterfed is the Tucker brothers from the United States. And then their original design, their original thinking was right, but they couldn't manufacture it. And everybody, so they compromised to make something that worked. And for 60 years, everybody copied the compromise. Nobody went back to their original thinking and say, how do we deliver it? And eventually, because also I was a window cleaner, so I was also trying to build what I didn't know they'd originally built that, by the way, because it was only one day I went to a shop in Melbourne, and they had a 20-year-old or 30-year-old Tucker brush in their warehouse. And I pulled it out and go, wow, like you guys, the original knew that the rinse had to be over the top of the bristles, but for 60 years, everybody rinsed through the middle because that's all Tucker could get away with. He couldn't make it work. So it's fascinating.
Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, go.
Fascinating.
Yeah, go.
In the 70s, I met a guy who was a bank manager who was doing pretty well, had a secure job. One of his clients was a window cleaner, and he had a few contracts for the main CBD of Perth. Yeah. And the bank manager looked at his business model and his income stream and went, do you want to sell your business? And the guy went, yeah, of course I do. So the bank manager bought it. And I met him the next time I went over to Perth for a catch up because he was a friend of a friend. Yeah. And he said to me, Paul, I've never been happier. I'm up, at the crack of dawn. I do the whole of the main, I forget the name, Main Street in Perth, but he said, I've now got every building in the main street of Perth. This is at walking level, so shops, not high-rise buildings. And he said, I'm done by midday. I can go home and rest for the rest of the day. The income stream, he said, the money that the guy was making, I've quadrupled it. I am making so much money now for so little effort. I'm fit. I'm healthy again. I have time for my family. I've never been happier. And that from the middle of the 70s has always stuck in my head. Yeah. And, I said to myself, what do you do in retirement? Oh, maybe I buy some window cleaning gear and get a couple of guys working for me, and I'll go out and sell the system or sell the service and get them to do the product. But anyway, another story.
We've got this guy in Melbourne, David Baker. David Baker was 64 at the time. Now he'd be 67, 68. I don't know. And he was about to retire, and he saw the Reach It stuff, and he bought it. He spent about $6,000 with us, which is that's like massive for us. Like we don't. Yeah. We talk people out of spending too much money with us. You just get what you need. That'll do to get going, and we get the revenue coming in. Whatever. But anyway, he spent a lot of money with us, and he's always thanked me, publicly and privately. That he was unable to clean windows the way he was doing it. So he was forcing himself to retire because his body wouldn't do it. And then he got the Reach It, and then he learned the technique. And then, ever since then, every year he throws a chunk of cash our way, for the new tools and stuff like that. And he's vibrant. Now he's flying to Perth to meet Peter Thomas and meet the boys and giving them butter knives for taking out screens, I think. It's hilarious. So there's some wonderful stories which we'll share in part 5.
Sure.
Okay, we better wind it up. Benji needs to go to bed. I've got the family Benji over, so Ollie's mum and grandma are here, so we're doing the tourist thing.
I noticed you were distracted. I just thought, leave it alone for
bless that little boy. he just makes my heart hum. Is just a lovely, lovely human.
Good for you.
All right. Well, Paul, thank you again. Thanks. Amazing. Next, we are. Can you remember? Can you make a note where we're up to?
Oh, I know where we're up to.
Great.
It's now coming in stages, so it's really starting to head towards where
we're getting into the modern stuff. And meantime, I'll see you offline, and we'll keep talking. Yep.
Great. All right. Look forward to it. Thanks, Benji. See you later.
Benji, thank you.
Okay. See you, Perry.
Hello, Ben here with Service Six Sigma. Are joining our live stream early to watch our pre-reels that we have on our live stream, and then we will start our show at 9. Thank you for watching or listening to another Service Six Sigma podcast. If you enjoyed the content, please like and share it with other mobile service contractors. We live stream daily, Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All previous podcasts are available for viewing at service6sigma.com. And for listening on your favorite podcast channel, just search Service Six Sigma. See you next time, and you have an epic day.